Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. Brought to you by Blue Sky Business Consulting. We discuss 5 questions in about 15 minutes.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast. We are always excited to take some time every week and talk a little bit about leadership in teams. And I'm very excited to welcome our guest. He comes all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, across the country from where I'm at here in Utah. But this is Dennis Franczak, and he is the founder and CEO of Bright Matter Advisors, as well as the founder and executive of Fuseideas, or Idea Fuse. Did I get that right?
No, Fuseideas. You got it.
Good. For a split second, I was like, oh, I might have reversed those.
No, you got it.
Thank you so much for taking time to be on the podcast today. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. What would you like the audience to know about what you're working on with your endeavors?
Yeah, thank you. Well, happy to be here, Sean. I always like doing these kind of podcasts because anything that we can do to help other executives and other business owners, help improve their businesses, it's something I love to do. So, quick background about myself: former Air Force officer, was in there for 7 years, really learned a lot about leadership. And then post Air Force, I started an internet company that I sold. And then in 2006, I founded an ad agency called Fuseideas, with Disney being our first client, we launched their very first broadband television network called ESPN 360. Wow. And then we launched ABC News Now, and then Disney Connection, all before CNN, and all of those were doing digital. So, and then from there, I stepped down as CEO in March of 2023, and I founded Bright Matter Advisors. And Bright Matter Advisors is really designed to help executives who are starting to feel transitions in their career, or they're starting to have themselves slowing down, or they're not feeling right. And I experienced a severe burnout episode in around 21, 22, and I needed to totally go off the grid and reset myself. And I've basically really learned a lot about myself in that. And I have boiled down that whole experience into ways that I can help other executives avoid having that happen to them. And through Bright Matter Advisors, we focus on 3 areas. We focus on them as a person, as a human being, which is number one, most important. Then we start to talk about their business and how they interact with their business and how that affects who they are as people. And then the most important part, the part that I love the most, is being able to help them start to form the foundation of a legacy. What do they want to be remembered for? Are they doing things with impact? Are they creating opportunities for their staff to do things with impact? Are creating that culture? So that's a little bit about Bright Matter Advisors and a little bit about my background.
That is awesome and very much needed. You and I talked about this before we started the recording here, but there are so many executives out there that are struggling with burnout, work-life balance. There's all sorts of different things. And boy, we don't want that to fester into something more serious. And so I'm really excited about what you're doing and wish you all the success in helping all of these great executives all over the place really just make sure that they're enjoying everything that they're doing. And I like the part that you're leaving a legacy as well. So that's awesome. All right, well, Dennis, let's get started with our questions. Our first question: how do business leaders know when to pivot in their business?
Well, this is a very good question. And this is oftentimes when we get brought in at Bright Matter Advisors, when executives and owners start to feel stuck. They have put so much time into their business. They've built their business. They've gone through those stages of business growth, right? Existence, survival, success, takeoff, maturity, right? And they're sitting there at the maturity level. And what happens at maturity level is, after that, companies start to die, or they start to lose what made them great. And what I have always been able to do at Fuseideas, and what I try to help these executives do, is go back to the success stage and remember what that felt like and start to build off new takeoff points, right? So it could be a pivot point is driven by external forces like the market, economics, the pandemic. That was probably the golden generation of pivoting, right? Just 3 years ago. Right. And what we try to do is say, what kind of pivot do you need to make to be relevant? And are you also in the right frame of mind to be able to lead that initiative so that you can be successful? Because what you don't want to do is build up this expectation that you're going to move your company in another direction and then not be able to follow through on it. So it's really about finding out times when you're starting to feel stagnant in your business, just internally, you're not getting the same success rate, winning new business and clients that you used to. And then also it's driven by external market forces.
Oh, that's awesome. I really like what you said about kind of almost going back to your core about what are those things that you really get excited about and drawing energy from that. And that is such an important piece rather than just going through the motions of doing something new that you haven't done, but really pull it in from deep within. So I really like that. And that kind of
Yeah.
leads to our next question a little bit. So Dennis, tell us, share with the audience one of your company's core values and then how that value helps you make decisions in your business.
Right. Well, one of the things about Fuseideas, and this is something that I really at first, when I was starting the company, I didn't worry about people, culture. I just needed bodies to service, ESPN and Disney, right? And then we had another growth area where we just had to, where we almost quadrupled our business in 6 months and we needed people. And what ended up happening is it cost me a lot of time and effort to rehire the right people. And so in the last 10 years or so at Fuseideas, we've focused particularly on getting the right type of people and having core values that people can stand behind. And one of the things about our company that we have that's a core value is they care. They are at their heart very empathetic people, and they also have a work ethic that is unmatched for an agency of our size to be able to compete with the ones that we do. And what I mean by that is they care so much about their clients and their coworkers that there's nothing that they won't do to help them succeed. And I think this came out of a little bit about, I grew up in a town called Holland, New York, south of Buffalo. And if you know Buffalo, New York, we're very blue collar there. We've lost 4 Super Bowls. We have a bit of a chip on our shoulder. People still think it's the 1970s and steel and all that. And what they don't realize is Buffalo is actually a very thriving community. I have an office out there. And I have basically built up a culture for people, and it's been enhanced with the great team that we have leading it. It's all about looking out for one another and looking out for the client. And that's legacy building. It ties back to what I'm doing at Bright Manor. Is like, if we can help a client build a great campaign, they're going to be remembered for that, and they're going to help their company be successful. So it's all about just doing whatever it takes to help your teammates and help your client. That is a core value. And we've proven it because we have 95% retention over the last 5 years. We also have approximately 35% of our agency is boomerangers. Like, they left at one time and came back. So we have a very, very tight culture, and there's other core values, but that's really the key one. They actually care. And that is really hard to find. And when you have that, it feels like a family. And I know that's an overstated word, but it's real at Fuseideas.
I love that because, and that's a great example, by the way, of taking that core value and actually implementing it and driving it within the company, because that's the whole point of the question. And the reason I ask of leaders such as yourself to share that is because so many times I see either they don't have any core values that they've identified, or they're just quite literally words that they put on a wall somewhere, or that it's in some corporate document, but it doesn't drive decision making. It doesn't drive culture. And that's what the core values of a company should do for us, is to really help us implement what it is that we want to accomplish and the kind of culture we want to create. I love that. And I love that you're right. It's overused, but I love the feeling. And I always would like to believe that when someone says we really are a family, they mean it. So I'm going to go with you on that and say, good for you for creating that culture and that family within your company. I think that's fantastic.
Well, what it's done too, Sean, is I just want to add another part, is it changes the way we screen and interview candidates.
Yes.
We look less at qualifications and more about core values and character. So we know the type of people we need to have in our company to succeed. And if they possess those core values, we can train them to do anything. And that gives great career growth for younger people. It's great for people who are looking to transition careers. So we interview through that lens of what is the type of human being that we want walking in our doors every day. And that's what matters. And that's what people pay for. We're not a manufacturer, we're an advertising agency. And you're literally buying people in your building. And so that we need to be able to make sure we have the best people.
Oh, I love that. Another great example of how to take those core values and really implement them, and to kind of screen the people that are coming into your company, make sure that they fit. I love it. Well done. I'll give you a round of applause for that one. All right. Well, you've kind of answered our next question then, because the next question is, how do you, identify and develop talent and help and hiring? And you've just, let's continue the conversation. But you talk about making sure that that core value is screened. Can you give us some ideas without, I don't want you to feel like you're revealing anything prematurely or trade secrets or anything, but do you have some questions that you typically will ask a candidate that you're considering that will help you to identify talent for your company and hiring people?
Right. So one of the best learning lessons in life is failure, right? And I have failed so many times. It's incredible, right? And that's just what happens when you're building businesses and you're trying to grow your company. You're going to make tons of mistakes. The key is how do you handle that, right? How do you handle failure? Because that tells a lot about you as a person, right? So for us, our core value is we want them to really care, right? Like, are they passionate about seeing something through? Are they passionate to help their teammates? So one of the things that we do in our screening call is we ask them honestly, talk about failure. What does it mean to you? How does it resonate with you, right? And give us an example of how you've overcome it, right? Now they'll say, well, I did these 5 or 6 things to do that, which everybody does. But what we're really looking for is the mindset. What are the things that were going through their head as they were doing those? And we start to tease those out. And then when we find that they're resilient, they're flexible, they're willing to be accountable if they were part of that mistake, which is another thing, then we know they're going to be great teammates, right? And we ask other things about name something where you had to do something extraordinary to help somebody else out, right? And we, once again, they'll answer something, but we care more about the mindset and the decision making, because that's natural. I mean, in job interviews, people can rehearse anything, but we're more about the thinking behind it to get inside the person.
Oh, I like that. Great examples. Thank you for sharing that. Now, obviously, we kind of move through the process, if you will. What's something that your company does to help identify and then develop strengths within the company? Obviously, you've got them hired and they're brought in now. What's something that you do in your company to help them really develop their strengths and their talents?
Well, in the old days, right, and this was a failure, right? We basically had this policy at Fuseideas where we liked self-starters, right? And we're like, just throw them in the deep end, and if they have the floaties on their arm, they should be able to get in there. And if they need a noodle once in a while, we'll throw it in the pool, and they'll figure it out.
Right.
And one of the things that we learned is that wasn't good enough, and that wasn't helping these people truly grow into professionals. So what we've done now is we've implemented a mentoring program. We have a 360-degree feedback loop where there's multiple people reviewing a company's performance. And also we really help people in our company move into different departments or positions if they're ready to do that and would like to do that, right? I mean, we had somebody that started out as my executive assistant and then moved into an account service role, right? And another one that moved into doing content marketing. She was too good to be, being my executive assistant, and it felt disingenuous to keep her in that role. So we just promoted her away from me, right? Which is always the ultimate goal, get her away from the CEO, right? So what we try to do is create pathways for people to move into other areas, right? And we've also done a great job, and this has been attributed to my chief operating officer and the team there, is we've really built empowerment at all levels. So each account executive who's responsible for their book of business and their clients, it's their own P&L practically. They run it, they get rewarded on it, they're accountable to it, and they get a sense of ownership about that. And we also give 25% of our company's profits back to our employees.
Wow.
Yep. So we take
Generous.
25% of our profits and give it back to the employees. So that keeps them empowered, motivated, and willing to grow.
That's really impressive. I'm impressed, Dennis, because you've got a really good plan for developing your people. And I love the fact that you don't want to put them in a box that, okay, this is an executive assistant. They're going to remain an executive assistant for as long as they're here. If they wanted to go do something else, they have to leave. You're willing to say, oh, you have some interest in some skill, or we can help you develop the skill in this area. Well, we just want you as part of our company somewhere because you have something to contribute. Let's help you get over there. And yes, the 25% is very, very generous, but I like that you also provide mentors and that you've got a whole development plan around your people. That is so needed, in my opinion. And it's a pretty strong opinion too. I don't think it's needed. I think it's an absolute necessity requirement for companies of any size to focus on their people. And I love that you're doing that. So again, hats off, well done. I'm really impressed. That's awesome.
It's a key part of our work at Bright Matter, right? I help companies and help my clients start to get the right people in place, because ultimately when that executive or owner decides to transition, he needs to have the next generation and the next, wave of people ready to go that ideally match his or her vision and the legacy that they want to leave. So I spend a lot of time in culture. I work on, people management and really try to do it because listen, no matter what you're doing, it's all about people, right?
Right. That's right. Well, you and I think a lot alike in that regard. So that's great. All right. Well, our last question, tell us a little bit about your first job.
Okay. So this was a horrific job, but I enjoyed it because it was working for my uncle. So growing up in Buffalo, we lived in a town called Holland, and my uncle owned a racetrack called Holland Speedway, right? So it was a little small track, part of NASCAR, but it was it's like a quarter mile, right? So basically, you have to take the family pay discount, of course, so you get paid hardly anything, but you get valuable experience. And one of my worst jobs was every weekend after a race, we would have to go and repair the track. So painting the guardrails again, and then digging asphalt up out of the track so that the paver could come in and replace it, right in the middle of the summer. And you're making like $5 an hour back in those days. And, you want to ask your uncle for a raise, but it's not coming. So, and it was kind of at that age where I said, I don't know if the manual labor thing is going to be good for me. So I kind of like eventually moved off of that and tried to put my mind to work.
Oh, I like that. That's a unique first job. I've not had anybody that worked at a racetrack before. That's really,
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you had some really cool stories, but yeah, out there in the middle of the summer, digging up asphalt and painting guardrails would not be envious. That's for sure. So
No, and then on Sundays we had to do what's cleanup after the races. So we would have to go out with like trash bags and climb under the bleachers and, clean up the food, and you'd see food and dirty diapers and just all manner of stuff. And you would have to do that in the heat of summer. It just was awful, but it's character building. And it actually carries on later in life, because I tell my staff and I tell a lot of my mentees, because I work with some younger people too.
yeah.
Don't ever ask anybody to do something that you haven't done. And you're never too important to take out your own trash.
Yes, I like that. I'm glad you're instilling that principle. I think that's fantastic. Well, Dennis, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. How can people find you?
Well, they can find me in two areas. They can go to brightmatteradvisors.com. They also can find me on Instagram at I am simply Dennis. And then they can also go to Fuseideas, and that's Fuse and Ideas, all one word.com. And whatever you need, I'm here to help you guys get to the next level as professionals, and whatever I can do, the phone call is free. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We appreciate it. And thanks to everyone who checks in and watches the video or listens to the podcast, whichever method you're contacting with us. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to helping you in the future with any kind of leadership or anything that you might need as we continue to all bind together as business owners and business leaders. So thanks so much for joining us every day or every week, and have a great day.
This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, go to teamengagementpodcast.com. We also invite you to follow or subscribe to our podcast wherever you may be listening or watching. Is your business thriving? Go to tbs-score.com to find out. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great day.